Audience members.
Hello.
I know.
Okay, well, I just wanted to start off by thanking you all for coming. I appreciate the time and your attendance. I brought you all here to give you a history on the second most popular holiday in America, which is Halloween. I don't know about you, but I did not know where most of our traditions and celebrations came from, so I decided to take a look. The first festival that I came across was a Celtic festival called Samhain, which is not how it is spelled at all, but it's pronounced Samhain. It's a Celtic festival that is celebrated at the end of October. They would light bonfires. They would place any sacrifices of animals and their crops as a sacrifice to their deities, or otherwise known as their gods. This was a time that they believed that the dead would come back to Earth, so it was basically their way of trying to prevent some of the damages and things that they believed that they did to their crops and the mischief that they caused. They also would wear the animal heads and the skins as a way to hide from the ghosts and scare them away. And then the other part of the festival was fortune telling from their priests called Druids. The coming winter months was always very fearful to them, so it was just basically a way to comfort them because they just were fearful of the dark, the cold, fear of the unknown. So it was just a way of trying to comfort them during that time. By 43 AD, most of the Romans had taken over the Celtic territories. So a lot of the Roman influences came into the celebrations. The first one was a festival called Feralia. It was a festival to commemorate the dead, and that was towards the end of October. And the second one was a festival of Pomona, who is this Roman goddess. She was the goddess of orchards and harvests and let's see, what was the other one? Fruits. So she's often seen with apples, and she's also pictured with a paring knife. It was thought that that's what she used to take care of the orchards that she looked after. And then during this festival, they would often celebrate with feasts of apples, nuts, and fruits of that sort. And that's where they think bobbing for apples comes from. As the time goes on, there's more and more influences in America from the European immigrants and then as well as the American Indians that already were living here. And this is when a newness to Halloween comes in, where they would do more what they called play parties. It was a more fun way to celebrate them, to focus on the dead aspect of it. So they would get dressed up, dance, sing, tell stories, and tell each other's fortunes. They also would still wear a mask at this time, especially at night, because it was still believed that the boundary between life and death was blurred. So the mask was to help them hide from the ghosts. A lot of times they'd go out at night. They just believed they could hide from the ghosts better that way. And then they would also leave bowls of food outside their doors. It was basically a way to prevent ghosts from coming in, a way to distract them and not to enter their home. And then this is also where they came to start celebrating on October 31st, and it became known as All Hallows Eve. In 1846, more immigrants from Ireland came over, and this is where we're seeing a lot more of the Irish traditions and cultures come in. The first thing that I came across was a parade, and it's not necessarily how we see a parade. It's more of the a gathering of the poor would go through, go door to door, and they're looking for what they called soul cakes. They were pastries that were made by the home, and in exchange for these soul cakes, they would pray for any of the dead relatives, because this was still a time that was thought of, you know, the boundaries between life and death. So in exchange for these pastries, they would pray for the dead relatives. And then as time went on, they stopped doing this, and it became more of a children's thing where they think trick-or-treating came into play. I know the church had a lot of influence on this, because they were trying to replace the leaving food outside the door for wandering souls with this, what they called going as souling. So children started doing this more, and it wasn't an exchange of prayer. It was more just a fun way to hand out pastries for the children. Next Irish tradition that came was a legend called Stingy Jack. Jack, as the legend goes, Jack was the town drunk, and he was also known as a trickster. He was visited by what they think was the devil one night, and the devil had come to take his soul. And being a trickster, he said, well, why don't we have one last drink, you know, before I go with you? So the devil said, okay. And being true to his name, he was stingy and said, I do not want to pay for these drinks. So he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin. So the devil did, and obviously he did not pay for those drinks. He stuck the coin in his pocket next to a silver cross, and now the devil cannot come out. So he carried him around in his pocket. Devil was tired of being carried around, wanted to change back, and Jack said, okay, I'll take you out if you cannot come after me for a full year, and during that time, if I die, you cannot claim my soul. So the devil said, fine. So he let him out for that whole year. The devil left him alone. End of the year comes, the devil comes back and tries to claim his soul, and somehow Jack convinces him to climb this tree to pick something for him. He climbs up there. He draws a cross in the tree. So now this devil is stuck up in the tree again. Devil says, you know, let me get down, let me get down. He says, okay, I'll let you down if you do not come after me now for another 10 years. And during that time, you also cannot claim my soul. Devil says fine, crosses off the cross, and he comes down the tree. Before the 10 years are up, he dies. Jack tries to go up to the gates of heaven. God says, nope, you were a trickster, you did bad things, I'm not letting you in. So he goes back down to the gates of hell, trying to get in with the devil, and the devil said, nope, I told you I wouldn't claim your soul. So he said, well, what am I to do? You know, it's dark. So the devil gives him an ember to carry around with him. So he, being in Ireland, he took a turnip, carved it out, put the ember in, and he is known to be wandering between the gates of heaven and hell ever since, and that's where the term Jack of the Lantern, which then turned Jack-o'-lantern, comes from. So once they came over to America, they found that the pumpkin was just larger and easier to carve and do different things with, so it became known to use the pumpkin instead of a pumpkin or a turnip or a potato. In the 1800s, then, there was a movement among the people to try and make it more family friendly. There was a lot of vandalism that was going on and pranks that were done to just get in the spirit and celebration of Halloween. So they wanted to make it more about food and drinks and, you know, the costumes and having more fun. So due to this, they lost a lot of their superstitious and religious overtones. And then between 1920 and 1950, they saw that trick-or-treating became more and more popular. that they said it maybe was a way to deter the vandals because they saw a lot of the vandalism go down. So between that time, it became more popular, and it's now grown to be a $6 billion a year celebration. To now where we still do the jack-o'-lanterns, we're still doing the trick-or-treating and things of that nature, and now we've added, the scary stories and the scary movies, and it's become a lot more of the Hollywood type deal. So, anybody have any questions or anything? All right.
Can I start calling Michael Jack?
Sure.
I think that story was made up.
All right.
Heard that story before?
Well then, just remember, when witches go riding and black cats are seen, the moon laughs and whispers, "'Tis near Halloween." Thank you for coming.